Hello, world. Welcome to the 289th Climate Change Emergency Protest here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It is June 6th, 2024. Next week will be number 290 Climate Change Emergency Protest, and that'll be on June 14th, somewhere in there. Um, so I'm on the horse trail right now in Gettysburg Battlefield. You wouldn't suspect this was here. Most people don't know about it. And it's really wonderful. It's great for running, great for walking your dogs, running your dogs, doing whatever, and it's a chance to get out in nature and enjoy that. And the road that goes around the battlefield for the tours is right nearby. So the horse trails crisscross the roads periodically, and it's really a wonderful place. And if you're older and you have injuries and stuff like that, the undulating hills and the throwing yourself from side to side in the soft surface can really heal you up and make you into a great runner. Um, right now, the United States is experiencing, and the world is experiencing denialism, denialism of the ecocide, denialism of the genocide going on in Gaza, the ecocide of the planet, and the fascism that is arising within several countries, if not all the countries, everything sliding harder and harder to the right. People won't agree with me on this about the Democratic Party, but they're sliding harder to the right. I mean, they're out trying to outdo the Republican Party as far as their Gaza slaughter fest and the genocide happening there and shipping weapons over. Joe Biden can do no wrong. So it's just, and also on Facebook, you see these comments going on all the time. Like I put a picture of a guy at a tree that had been cut down, 300 years old. And I bet you I blocked or kicked out probably over 100 people just on the fact that someone was at a tree and crying over it because the tree was 300 years old. It had the most stupid comments I've ever heard in my life, also personal insults and things like that. So it's like, you know what? You're going to be a jerk. I'm going to kick you off. And I did. And I'll never see him again. And they'll never see me. That's fine. Life goes on. Right now, the oceans have risen 2.5 inches since 2002. It's a little known fact, and if you own a house at the beach, you probably know that. I think Rodantha in North Carolina right now, houses are starting to slide into the ocean. Places are there, for example, in Panama. Panama, there's an island off the coast of Panama that is part of Panama. They've had to uh, um, get 300 people residents off of that, evacuate 300 residents from that island that's 300 meters long by 140 meters wide. So it's not very big, but they're only a foot and a half above sea level. So the island nations of the world are going to be suffering the same thing. And these whole community of people had to leave. I mean, they have to get out. The temperature of the world has increased 1.63 degrees Celsius over the last 12 months over the 1750 baseline. The United Nations said we got to hold everything under a degree and a half Celsius. Well, we're at 1.63. Now the weird part about it is that this is the hottest part in a hottest time in 125,000 years, basically since humans have been around. It's the hottest time. But there's this obsession with measuring in decades. They won't declare that it's been above 1.5 degrees Celsius for a whole year until several decades from now. They said it's going to take years and years and years of assessment to determine whether we're actually above 1.5. Well, we don't have decades, and the way things are going, speeding out of control, this denialism going on will kill us with the United Nations. By the time they do assess it, we'll be at 3, 4, maybe 5 degrees Celsius, if not higher, and struggling to live. If they wait several decades or even a dozen years to declare an emergency or whatever, then we're already thick into it, at which we are now, and so far gone that there's no getting it back by that time. So it's a denialism to the reality of the increasing temperature at an increasing rate. The United Nations IPCC, International Panel on Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change, just won't acknowledge it. They will to a certain extent only if they have to. And that was the United Nations report said we're at 1.63 over the past year using Copernicus, the European satellite. Oceans right now, the tropics, the Atlantic Ocean, the Arctic Ocean are all the hottest since humans began, basically. Coral reefs will be gone before 2050. It doesn't sound like much. Oh, so what? They're pretty and who cares? But like a quarter of the fish and many millions of people depend on the coral reefs for their fish and to survive as a group. So everything spins out of control and affects everything else because you lose coral reefs and you lose other fish, then you lose bigger fish, and it's a whole thing. Southeast Asia right now, India, Pakistan, Greece, Mexico, Central America, United States have areas entirely that are above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Climate hell is what we're in for, or what we're in right now, and that's according to Antonio Guterres, the United Nations Secretary General. And the United States produced, and I've said this many times, United States, you think Joe Biden's the climate change president? Get a grip. I mean, the guy's done so many issuing of permits and everything else, but the United States drilled and produced more oil in 2023 than any country ever has, more than Saudi Arabia, Russia, anybody. And in 2024, we're going above the 2023 levels. So that's where we are right now. You got a president who says one thing, but he does another thing. These guys, I can't stand people that say one thing and under the table, they're doing something else. Trump at least will tell you he's an asshole, and he'll be right to your face and tell you he's going to be a jerk about it and everything. You know what's coming. These Joe Biden types tell you, oh, no, we're not going to, and then they are doing it anyway. So there's no difference between the two. Basically have the same oil policies, same genocide policies, same ecocide policies, what's going on. You can argue about all sorts of stuff you want. This is where we are. The people who got us here were Obama, Bush, Trump, and Biden. This hasn't been a coincidence. These people, their policies are leading the world and have no set plan to get us out of this situation. Subsidizing the oil industry when they don't need it. They're making billions and trillions of dollars in profit, and we're still subsidizing. That's like subsidizing Elon Musk or anyone else, Facebook or Amazon. Oh, we do that anyways. What am I talking about? We do that all the time. But it's socialism for the rich, but it's capitalism for those who aren't rich at all. So that's where we are as a country. Oh, I believe in capitalism. Yeah, for the rich. But if we want, or for the socialism for the rich, but if we want help or anything like that during the pandemic to get us out of the situation and become more wealthy, that didn't happen, but the rich people did. Wealth went up a ridiculous amount of money. They issued $5 trillion from the Federal Reserve in leverage when they did that. So it's just the whole thing that's going on with the socialism versus capitalism, and it's like you're being played. You're a slave basically to the banks and the interest rates. To pretend otherwise is absolutely insane right now. You're in the middle of slavery. It's just like feudalism, anything else, and it's fascism going on with a blending of the corporations, the military, what else? Military, and the war industry, and the Pentagon, things like that. It's a total fascism and a militarization of the police. So you got no free speech basically within reason. Like the college kids, they got beat up by the cops. They weren't doing anything but sitting there in their tents. There wasn't anti-Semitism going on. They had Jewish people with them. They were anti-genocide, anti-Zionism, which is expanding into Gaza, expanding into the West Bank, and things like that. The news tries to portray it, and the AIPAC lobby tries to portray it as anti-Semitism. Bullshit. It wasn't anything like that. It was just pure anti-genocide and anti-Zionism, which is the state of Israel. Okay, be like United States protests in the United States if we were going into Mexico and killing everyone there. Same idea. So yesterday we were supposed to get a 1/4 inch of rain. We ended up 3 to 4 inches. It was a deluge. What's going on? And that leads me into towns of the United States and around the world aren't ready for what's coming, whether it's flood, heat, fires, anything, deluges, things like that. It's shaded areas are needed. Green areas are needed. I can't read my writing. Cooling areas are needed. Panels maybe or shade over the sidewalks, things like that. Solar panels, they could do anything. Ban cars in town, have an outside satellite parking area and have mass transit into towns. Parks are needed inside towns. New York City does it. They have Central Park and parks throughout the town. Here in Gettysburg, not so much. And the park that we do have has no trees. It's called Rec Park, Recreation Park. Yeah, it's great for baseball and things like that, but it's blazing hot there. There's no shade, and it's kind of goofy to not have that. No building projects are needed. Downtown Gettysburg, for example, they're going to build an apartment complex. I talked about this before, and it's going to be a heat island. It's going to keep the heat in Gettysburg rather than vent it off at night or during the day. If they had a forest downtown instead of this open area that they're going to turn into a apartment complex, things would be much cooler in town. They could have greenways as well. The alleys in town, they could figure out a greenway situation. You need flood zones, a place that the water can dump out, things like that. You need hot zones that, you recognize that this is going to be really hot here. We need to rectify that situation. It needs to be an assessment as to what's happening. So let's see here, 36,000, that's nothing. Okay, in Gaza, for example, what's going on there? See, the climate change thing and the Gaza thing's all related because we're spending all of our money on war. And that's a focus because we're in a fascistic state where we're just spending money on war, 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 war. If you say anything, you're going to be attacked by friends or whoever and people that are associated with the government because they want to make money and they have the people brainwashed. We know so many master's degree people and they believe that Joe Biden is the answer for everything. And he's an absolute genocidal maniac with his policies, an ecocidal maniac with his policies. Donald Trump, a genocidal maniac with his policies, an ecocidal maniac with his policies. Robert Kennedy Jr., genocidal maniac with his policies. You understand what's going on? The only one that's not genocidal maniac is Jill Stein with the Green Party. If you look up their stuff, they're about planet, peace, and people. It's a no-brainer. It's the only party out of the four that aren't all about that. So in Gaza, 75,000 tons of bombs have been dropped. 75,000 tons, not 75 tons, 75,000 tons. That is 150 million pounds of bombs have been dropped on Gaza. This is an area by 26 miles by 12 miles wide. 150 million pounds of bombs on 2 million people. This is nuts what's happening, and this is called a genocide. Joe Biden's participating in it. The War Congress, the War Criminal Congress down in Washington, D.C., Democrats and Republicans are wholehearted behind it. The thing about the House of Representatives, every 2 years, they have to run for re-election. If you're voting for any of these people, you're voting for genocide. If you're voting for any of these people, you're voting for ecocide. Same with Joe Biden, same with Donald Trump, anyone. The November election coming up. So more tonnage has been dropped on Gaza in 3 months than was dropped in 8 years in Iraq. Okay, that gives you an idea what's happening. 2,000-pound bombs were used. The United States didn't even use 2,000-pound bombs in Iraq because they knew the devastation it would cause. It kills, when you drop a 2,000-pound bomb, and these are shipped over by the United States to Israel. When a 2,000-pound bomb is dropped, it can kill everyone within a 2-football field area. So that's a huge amount of people. So the ICC, International Criminal Court, and International Court of Justice has said that Netanyahu is committing genocide, as is his Secretary of Slaughter in Israel, and they will be putting out a warrant for his arrest. So, and the European countries participate with the International Criminal Court. So technically, if Netanyahu goes to any European country, he theoretically could get arrested, but they won't do it because they're too wimpy to the United States. The United States does not participate in the International Criminal Court, even though Joe Biden says no one's above the law. Well, the International Criminal Court is the world court. So this has been determined that a genocide is being committed and in Gaza by the Israelis, and the United States and Germany are the two countries supplying them with weapons. The United States supplies 69% of the Israeli weapons. So if you're voting for Joe Biden, voting for Donald Trump, you're voting for murder. If you're voting for Joe Biden, voting for Donald Trump, you're voting for ecocide. Or you understand that? If you're voting for Robert Kennedy Jr., you're voting for genocide. So the Biden administration has said, Joe Biden himself has said, there's no genocide being committed in Gaza. You know why? Because he's the one shipping the weapons over personally. Okay, he's released through executive order millions of dollars in weapons over there. The War Criminal Congress has also issued billions of dollars in weapons going over there. Joe Biden issued $1 billion in weapons 2 weeks ago to go to Israel after he put a pause on something or other to make himself look good. But under the table, no one knew about, he shipped $1 billion worth of weapons over to Israel. So no one's above the law. That's what Joe Biden says, but except for the United States. We're not a member of the International Criminal Court. Go ask me why. I don't know. And so obviously the United States feels they're better than everybody else. Let's see. Concentrated bombing, starvation, medical cutoffs, water cutoffs, targeting specifics such as universities, professors, internet, IT people working on computers, journalists, hospitals, you name it, United Nations workers, people distributing food, have all been targeted by the Israelis. These are called war crimes, okay? Ethnic cleansing, things like that. They're ping-ponging the people right now from Rafah down to central Gaza, back up to northern Gaza, down to south. It's a mess what's going on, and the United States and the people that are voting for Joe Biden and Donald Trump don't care, don't want to know about it. You can't have a discussion with anyone about it as far as this genocide murder being committed. But if you're all about genocide, murder, vote for those two guys. If you're not, and if you have a heart or some moral center, you need to vote for Jill Stein in the fall with the Green Party. So genocide, Joe. Genocide Joe and the War Criminal Congress, they've been supplying weapons for genocide. The State Department, our State Department is the chief negotiators, as chief diplomats. They're even shipping weapons over to Gaza, to Israel, to go slaughter people. This whole thing's messed up. Anthony Blinken should be brought up on charges as well. Anyone in the State Department, those top three guys, Mr. Smiley Pants, who I can't stand. As of June 8th, okay, well, I'll come back to that in a second. Yeah, the college kids were brutalized by the militarized police. This is part of the fascism going on. It's not free speech at that point. They were just bothering nobody. If you don't like the tents being right here, go around them and go to your class. It's not that big of a deal. But if you want to hear what they have to say, then stop and have a talk with them. They weren't assaulting anyone. They weren't calling anyone names, but they did get assaulted by a group of Zionists supported by several actresses' wives or whatever. I forget who was. Gave them $5,000. And these people assaulted the people at UCLA campus. All right. Jill Stein was assaulted by the police at the University of Washington in St. Louis with cops with bicycles. She's 70 years old. Hit her in the head, knocked her down with her helper, as well as several college kids, and she fell down backwards, hit her head. They tried to pull her up by her feet, and she tried to get away, and she did for a second. And they said, "You're resisting arrest." Well, she got assaulted. Okay, anyone that's getting assaulted by someone for no reason. And then after that, I saw a video of one of her friends was taking videos of everything going on, and they took him aside in handcuffs or whatever, took him out a little bit, like a 50 yards away, and then proceeded to drop, one of these elbow drops on him and put their knee into his belly and everything else, which easily could have caused a ruptured spleen. So what are we doing about it? College kids, free speech, being brutalized. My wife and I are going down on June 8th, that's this Saturday, down to the White House, and we're going to surround it with hopefully thousands of people around the whole White House, 2 miles around, and let Joe Biden know this is the red line. He kept saying Rafah's the red line. Well, now people are getting slaughtered in Rafah. Last night or yesterday, 30 people got slaughtered with an Israeli bomb. Oh, we're going after Hamas. No, you're not. You're slaughtering people. You're causing destruction. You're causing fear. You're a terrorist organization. You're a genocidal maniac. Netanyahu's a genocidal maniac with everything going on. So on June 8th, we're going down there at 12 o'clock. If you want to be there, be there. And surrounding the White House, everyone's supposed to wear red, okay, symbolizing the red line. So the fascism exists right now in this country. Free speech is under attack. And you don't have to wait for Trump. Biden's doing it himself, okay? Trump is all about that. He's going to do what he does. Biden and the Democrats are doing it right now. Free speech, corporations, government, and military blending, as well as the militarized police. What's happening, though, with this election coming up, we can't take 4 more years of a Joe Biden or a Donald Trump. Basically, it's a re-election for both of them because they know the ropes now. And you're going to see even more of an ecocidal disaster, more of a genocidal disaster, and the good chance of going into World War III. Joe Biden just authorized Ukraine to go in and start bombing, sending shells in 200 miles into Russia. So how would we react if Mexico was authorized to send shells into Dallas or into Houston or things like that? We would flip out and go attack Mexico altogether. So this whole thing that we're bombing Russia and expect the Russians to sit by the side and not do anything about it is insane. So Joe Biden is always on the wrong side. He's always been on the wrong side of every freaking issue he's ever done. You look at his career and he's a horrendous monster as far as his politics goes. As a person goes, no idea. I assume his politics follows his personality. So I'll see you on June 8th down in DC. Hopefully we'll do a broadcast then, my wife and I, and that'll be still protest number 289. It'll be 289B. And I'll see you then. Thanks for hanging in there, and have a good view of the battlefield horse trail.